From the earliest days of my childhood, I sensed that I came from somewhere else. Even though my conscious mind did not remember where, it was a sense of belonging to something special, a presence much larger than me, larger and at the same time intensely intimate and loving. As I grew up, I longed to connect with this loving presence that danced with me through my life's experiences. At times drawing so close I could almost touch it, and other times slipping so far away I thought I had lost it forever. This connection often seemed just outside my grasp. Perplexed, I began to have questions. What could I do? Where could I go to connect with this presence that pulled so persistently at my heart?
Let the earth produce all kinds of plants, those that bear grain and those that bear fruit.
One magical day, heaven visited my garden in the form of a mysterious figure. She was beautiful, wise, and to my relief, just quirky enough to make me feel at ease. She invited me to embark on a journey of discovery with her. "Our journey will begin," she said, "when you believe as a child, see as a child, and hear God's voice as a child."
Once upon a time, two children, a boy and a girl, lived in a beautiful, enchanted garden. It was a happy place, full of joy and wonder. The children didn't have a care in the world. Every day, their papa would spend time with them. And oh, how papa loved them so. You are the greatest delights of my heart.
One day, while Papa was away, the children met a charming stranger who told them fascinating stories about a better world beyond the garden. Beguiled, they eagerly believed his tales, especially when he offered delectable proof just outside the garden wall. In that single, terrible instant, the children's lives changed forever as the stranger revealed his dark purposes, and they realized that they had horribly betrayed their dearest papa. In fear and in shame, the children found themselves lost in a dark and unknown world, the world of the stranger. Later that afternoon, Papa returned to the garden, eager to spend time with his beloved children.
Come to me, my children. Come.
But instead of the usual happy cries of reunion, today the garden was silent. Papa's delight turned to immense sorrow as he realized they were gone. He knew that the world of the stranger would obscure their way home, even confuse their identities as his children. But Papa held on to hope. He gathered up the pieces of his broken heart and flung them out into the stranger's world beyond the garden, hoping that his children would one day see his eternal light and follow it home to their happily ever after, their birthright. And if you listen carefully, you can still hear Papa's voice calling out from the garden, echoing throughout the ages.
Come back to me, my children. Come home. Just follow the light.
Come back to me, my children. Come home. Just follow the light. I so wanted to accept that invitation to take a journey. God truly knew the desire of my heart, that I wanted to be in his light, to walk with him and talk with him, to really know the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to experience him in ways that I knew would be far beyond the ordinary. Yes, the artists know it, the philosophers know it, and the Bible's very clear about it. As my heart was being readied for my remarkable journey, I began to read God's Word. His voice began to come alive, and I began to hear his word in refreshingly new ways.
Are not all angels spirits in the divine service, sent to serve for the sake of those who are to inherit salvation?
The deeper I immersed myself in the Word, I began to sense a presence drawing near to me, like a heavenly fragrance carried on a breeze. And I wasn't the only one who sensed it. My precious dog, Cody, he sensed it too. Something mysterious was afoot. Cody, what do you see, boy? Even though I sensed I was encountering something of a divine nature, the world we live in tells us it isn't real, that it belongs to the realm of imagination. A tug of war was going on between my mind and my heart. My heart always suspected that there was more to our reality than meets the eye, and I just hadn't been able to shake this persistent desire to connect more deeply with something or someone out there beyond myself. But then a few years ago, God placed his lamp unto my feet, illuminating my path. He was preparing me, and it really rocked my world. While serving as a lay minister at the Methodist Hospital here in Houston, I visited with critically ill patients. I prayed with them, and I listened to them without judgment. And as they let down their defenses, they began sharing powerful stories of unexplained coincidences, angelic appearances, divine dreams, and near-death encounters with heaven. And when they did this, something marvelous happened. They changed. They smiled. They wept tears of joy and gratitude, even in the midst of their life-threatening trials. And as they poured out their hearts and stories, a space was created that allowed hope and healing to flow back in. It was beautiful. And as I considered these experiences along with my own, I realized that divine encounters really do happen, and they happen a lot more than we might think. And so I knew I needed to surrender my skepticism, to conquer my fear of an unseen world pressing into my own reality. And to do this, I retreated to my garden. My garden is my personal sacred space where I go to pray and to contemplate. And it's where I finally learned to open my mind and my heart to the possibility of the impossible. What really counts in life is that you have seen something or felt something so great, so matchless, that everything else is nothing by comparison. And even if you forgot everything, you would never forget this. Exactly. Well, whatever this something was, I wanted to connect with it. I wanted more of it.
Heaven is closer than you think, Jennifer.
Margaret?
So that's my name.
I have no idea why I just called you that.
So you could understand me in human terms. Margaret. A nice name for an angel.
Angel? You're an angel?
What do you think an angel should look like, Jennifer? Go ahead, give it a try.
Well, when I was a little girl, I imagined angels looked like beautiful princesses.
With the country twang, as I recall.
Yes. With wings.
You got it.
But Margaret, why have you come to me?
You've been inviting me your whole life, sweetheart. When you played, when you prayed, when you called out in pain or in disillusionment.
So, does this mean you're my guardian angel?
Read me a little more of that story, Jennifer.
But Papa was not satisfied that the light he cast would be recognized in the stranger's terrible darkness. After resting a while, deep in thought, he called some of his dearest friends to gather with him under a magnificent tree, where he addressed them.
I am very concerned. My children have already forgotten me, and I know life will be difficult for them in their dark new world. I want you to go to them as my light bearers. Help them open their eyes so that they can discover the way back to me.
Papa's friends were more than happy to help, for they too missed his beloved children. With a kiss and a promise to guide and protect, each walked to the garden gates and stepped out into the dark world beyond. Are you telling me these friends are really angels? I thought this was just a story.
Take a journey with me.
Where?
To the place that you have yearned to discover. Sweetheart, it's a place where heaven and earth intersect.
Is there really such a place?
You'll see. But first, you must rediscover the faith you had as a child, full of eagerness and expectation. The faith you had before the world took it away.
Oh, for heaven's sake, Margaret. The world didn't just take it away. It ripped it away. You know that.
And he said, truly I tell you, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven.
How in the world do I do that?
Think about it, Jennifer. And when you're ready to take this journey, I will be here.
Princess, maybe I should dress up like one too.
That sounds fun.
The faith of a child. Faith was so easy then, but our world makes it difficult to retain that kind of faith. Things happen, adult things, failure and sadness and disappointment. Trust becomes mistrust. Expectation becomes hopelessness. And belief becomes doubt. Yet on the other hand, through these very same adult experiences, we gain knowledge and hopefully wisdom. I suspect that in order to regain the faith of a child, we have to blend this adult persona with the purity of heart and spirit that we had as children. Was Margaret right? Could that little girl, Jennifer, still be inside of me? Oh, I hoped so, but she seems so very far away.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is my truest love of all?
I fully expected that mirror to give me an answer. Oh, I can't even begin to count the times I stood in front of that mirror, dressed in my mother's prettiest dress and high-heeled shoes, believing that someday my true love would sweep me off into a glorious future. We'd fill our beautiful castle with children. 5. I always wanted 5 children. And they would delight my days with laughter and challenge. And at night, my true love and I would sit by the fire holding hands. Back in those days, I still thought kissing was pretty yucky. What did I know? But we would be content and in love. I truly believed in once upon a times and happily ever afters. I just believed, pure and simple. It was lovely.
You ready for the journey now? To the place where heaven and earth intersect?
No, I'm not. You know I'm not.
You just rediscovered the childhood faith, sweetheart. You remembered what it was like to believe, purely and simply.
Yes, but...
Too late. Your journey has already begun.
Anything? Oh, I so wanted to believe that. I guess the first thing I needed to do was to believe in Margaret, that she really was an angel. But I went with it. Her voice was coming from somewhere deep within me. I knew it. I felt it. I was a little nervous, though, about journeying deeper into this unknown place where heaven and earth intersect. What would I find there? Would I meet this mysterious divine presence that has been calling to me from somewhere else? Could it be possible that I just might meet God? Margaret assured me that the benefits of taking this journey far outweighed my apprehensions. She even hinted that it might be life-changing. And then she said that our journey would begin by taking the 3 following steps. We must open our hearts and minds to the possibility of experiencing God in our lives. Possibility, that transporter of the soul which makes our hearts leap and allows us to believe the unbelievable and to expect the unexpected. And second, we have to give ourselves permission to believe. That sounds so simple, but is it? It's easy to believe what our physical senses tell us, but it's a much different matter to believe what our non-physical or our spiritual senses are telling us. So when we choose belief, we acknowledge that our encounters are proof of a vibrant and an expansive reality that exists beyond ourselves. And third, we must embrace our divine encounters as validation of our true identities, for we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Think about that for a moment, because it's important. That turns upside down what we normally believe. We generally consider ourselves as human beings that can be spiritual, but that limits us. When we believe ourselves to be spiritual beings having a human experience, we open ourselves to a whole new realm of possibility. When we take these 3 steps, we invite the supernatural. We invite heaven to act upon our lives, and that is when miracles happen. Wow. Anything is possible if a person believes. I was convinced. I was finally ready to join Margaret on this journey. Okay, Margaret, what do I do now?
To find belief, you have to go back to where you lost it.
Whoa. Wait a sec. I didn't see that coming. I think I should have a vote in that, don't you? Do I have to?
Ugh, yes.
There was a time in my life when no amount of once upon a times could penetrate my darkness. These crosses, these are my children, the children I never got to have. This is the place where the dearest dream I had for my life withered and died. My happily ever after dream. I thought I had found it. From the time I graduated from college, I had my whole life all planned out. I got a job, got married, and put all my hopes and dreams into becoming a mother. I wanted to be just like my own mother. Wonderful, kind, and nurturing. We bought a house in a nice family neighborhood with a big backyard for the children to play in. And would you believe it? That house really, truly did have a white picket fence in front of it. I was so excited about my future, and I was eagerly looking forward to bringing my children into the world of my 5 children. I even had 2 of my children already named. My first 2 would be twins, a girl and a boy, and their names would be Mia Geneva and Liam Stewart. But then, without warning, my world imploded, and it began with a frightening and terrible word. And it's a word that's still really painful to say: infertility. No matter what we tried, I could not conceive. I couldn't believe this was happening. My friends were having their first babies and then their second babies, but nothing for me. The emotional, physical, and financial tolls were unbearable. This was a subject no one wanted to talk about, so we were all alone. The grief, my grief, became too much. And eventually, I was alone. My dreams of motherhood and marriage were gone. My happily ever after dream had vanished into thin air, just like that. I distanced myself from my friends who were busy raising their own families because it was just too painful to be around them. And there I was, desperately sad and completely alone. And I wondered, what in the world was I supposed to do now? I didn't even know who I was anymore. Well-meaning people would say things like, "It'll all work out. You'll find something else to do with your life, and it's not the end of the world." Oh, but it felt like the end of the world to me. I would never have a little child run into my arms and whisper, "I love you, Mommy." I would never get to comfort my children when they were afraid at night, or share in their excitement of discovering their first loves. I would never get to help them plan their weddings or rock their babies in my arms. Honestly, I felt like a monster tornado had just ripped my life into complete shreds. My life was over before it had begun. Before all this happened, I didn't understand what brokenness meant. I'd always had a very strong spirit of joy inside of me, but now my heart and spirit were shattered. I was lost and sad, and I had completely run out of hope. Sure, my head told me disappointment is inevitable. There's no such thing as the perfect marriage, the perfect child, the perfect home, or the perfect life. That's because we live in an imperfect world. But my heart didn't want to bury my dream. It was a part of me. I prayed and I prayed and I prayed for God to fix things so that my dream would come true. But it didn't. And finally, I was so hurt and angry that I just gave up. And I stopped talking to God altogether. I thought, how could a God who loved us so much be so mean and uncaring? I was done with him. I was just done. And then it happened. The ever-faithful word, the word I had turned away from, drew near to me.
The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it.
One night, while sleeping, I had a dream that was more than just a dream. It was vivid and real. None of the fuzziness or confusion of my usual dreams. I dreamt that I was out walking in the desert on a cold, very dark night. There were no stars. I was afraid of the darkness, and I was hurrying, trying to get back home. And as I approached my house, my very dark house, I was amazed to see a hand placing a candle in the window. No one was supposed to be there. I lived alone. But I felt instant relief at that little point of light. It was the only light I could see for miles around. I finally entered my home. There was no furniture, just a dirt floor. I looked across the room toward the window, and I was astonished by what I saw. There, standing in a shimmering gold light that encompassed his whole being, was Jesus. I fell to my knees in absolute wonder. His hand was still on the candle holder in the window, as if it was holding it to light my way. He smiled at me, and I heard his voice so full of love and tenderness.
I will always be here for you, Jennifer.
With that, he began to shimmer even brighter, disappearing into an explosion of golden shimmers, which dispersed in an ever-widening pattern, engulfing the room, swirling around me. The very air I breathed was full of him, effervescent. I sat, immersed in him, breathing him in until he was gone. I was no longer afraid. And when I awakened, I felt, for the first time in a very long time, that things were going to be okay. I began to hope again. I realized, I knew this was more than just a dream. What I'd had was a divine encounter with the living source of the light of heaven. Oh, that beautiful light. How I wish I could see it again.
You came face to face with the miraculous, and
It touched me. It changed me. It took away my fear. Yes, fear. Fear thrives on unbelief and hopelessness, which was keeping me from moving forward. Before this dream, I couldn't even have imagined that one day I'd be remarried to a prince of a guy, or that I'd find a new calling. Isn't this the very purpose behind our divine encounters? To make us sit up and pay attention, to help us understand that we are not alone, to help us see the possibility in our lives. My beautiful dream not only took away my fear, but it led me back into belief. My connection to God was no longer broken. I started to believe in Him again. Like Kierkegaard said, it was an encounter I will never forget. The reason this encounter with Jesus was so powerful, so special, is that it did not come from me. It came from outside, from another place. If we truly are spiritual beings having a human experience, then it makes sense that our divine encounters come from the heavenly realm, providing the needs, the knowledge, or encouragement that we would not have achieved on our own. This is exciting, friends. We have help. And I found that this help comes to us in many different ways, each uniquely personal. What you receive from God will be perfect just for you. And my encounter with Jesus was so deeply personal that the memory of it, even after all these years, can still bring me to my knees. And after being immersed in that shimmering light of undeserved grace, the word became, well, music to my ears.
I come to the garden alone, while the dew is still on the roses, and the voice I hear falling on my ear, the Son of God discloses. And He walks with me, and He talks with me, and He tells me I am His own. And the joy we share as we tarry there, none other has ever known.
He walks with me, and He talks with me. These are more than just words to a song. They are truth.
I slept, but my heart was awake.
My heart was becoming alive again, and it was listening. This happened most often when I was asleep, through what I call divine dreams. I felt like Jacob in Genesis when he says, I dreamed another dream. Some of my dreams were prophetic, dreams that come true, and others revealed deep scriptural truths. In one dream, I was permitted to witness the passing of a friend as it occurred. I watched as angels ministered to her as she died and then escorted her out into the heavenly realm. I will never forget the comfort and joy I received knowing that my dear friend was alive and well in her forever home. But dreams are not the only way that we can encounter God in our lives in extraordinary ways. One of my very first encounters came the moment I asked Jesus to come into my life when I was 14. As I quietly prayed, "Jesus, please come into my life," all of a sudden words of an unknown language came pouring out of me, accompanied by the most exquisite joy I have ever experienced. I'll admit, I was surprised when this happened, but I took to calling this the language of God. I'm well aware that many people kind of squirm when they hear about it, but I'll tell you this. This is one of my most cherished ways that I experience God. I use this language in prayer, and it brings me a peace beyond my own understanding. And for me, it has served as undeniable, unquestioning proof of the existence of the Holy Spirit. Whether profoundly or through only a whisper, heaven speaks to us in so many ways: in nature, art, music, literature, the scriptures, in prayer, in other people, and in the completely unexplained. For instance, many people, wide awake or otherwise, report having white light experiences, the feeling of being bodily transported into a radiant white light that defies description, yet leaves the experiencer forever changed, deeply accepting. During my hospital ministry, I was on the receiving end of one of these white light stories, and the impact on me was profound. This is John's story as he told it to me. I struggled with terrible heart disease, which led to several heart attacks and eventually a heart transplant. Once, I had a massive heart attack and I died. While the medical team tried to resuscitate me, I felt myself moving upward, away from my body. I could see everything that was happening in the room. I floated up through the ceiling and found myself completely embraced in a warm mist of light that radiated love in its purest form. A voice spoke to me, and I knew it was my Creator. I was offered the chance at a new life, and when I accepted, I was told I had to go back. I didn't want to. I wanted to stay there with that incredible love, but I came back. Then John leaned in close, tears in his eyes, and he said, "Honey, before this happened, it had been a long time since I had given a thought to God. I had strayed so far away from Him. I was a wine, woman, and song kind of guy, if you know what I mean. My outlook on life was what you see is what you get. But after this experience, I knew that I'd had it all completely wrong. And I am making it my life's work to tell everyone that there is something more out there, something wonderful. And we need to talk about it. We need to share it." Not only did this encounter change John forever, but hearing it changed me too. In my experience as a Bible study and book discussion leader and speaker, I have heard hundreds of divine encounter stories from people eager to share them with those hungry to hear them. And there are a lot of hungry people out there, hungry for hope. And I'll tell you what, nothing inspires hope like a hug from heaven. My husband Guy and I received one of these hugs during a very sad event in our lives.
Behold, I send an angel before you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Pay careful attention to him and obey his voice.
Guy and I had a sweet little Italian greyhound named Mia. She was 6 years old, and she and her sister Isabel were the delights of our lives. But one awful day, Mia escaped from the backyard and disappeared. We searched frantically for her all night and into the next day. Sadly, we discovered her in the road. She had been hit by a car and died. We brought her home and we buried her, and we were numb with grief. The following day, we decided we needed a change of scenery, so we packed up our Isabel in the car and drove down to the beach. It was a favorite place to take long walks. Our hearts were so heavy as we watched Isabel chase sandpipers along the shoreline. We missed our Mia so very much. Suddenly, we came across two men who stopped us and asked us if Isabel was an Italian greyhound. We answered yes. Then one of the men said that he had had an Italian greyhound, that she had been hit by a car and died, and that it was a terribly painful experience for him. Guy and I were stunned. This man had no way of knowing that this was exactly our situation. We spoke with the two men about our similar situations for a few more minutes, and as we did, peace began to calm my aching heart. Finally, we said our goodbyes, and then the men walked away behind us. When I turned around to look for them a few moments later, they were nowhere in sight. I've often thought about what happened on the beach that day. My heart has always suspected that the specific encounter pointed to a miraculous hug orchestrated by heaven. I believe that those two men were angels, and that God sent them to heal our broken hearts and to escort us into a place of peace. Now, I know there are those who will say that was just a coincidence. I've heard it. And my response to that? Well, I sometimes wonder if Einstein might have had it right when he said, coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. Coincidences are like whispers on a sudden breeze that makes our skin tingle and our minds snap to attention. And for an electric moment, we realize that something extraordinary has happened. And it's how we receive them that makes all the difference. We can choose to believe that coincidences are randomly colliding events, pure chance. Or we can choose to believe that coincidences are extraordinary spiritual moments, magnificent collisions of our consciousness with our Creator. I choose the second option, for it carries with it the transforming power of knowing we are not alone, knowing that somewhere out there lies the source of our hope and the answers to all of our questions and all of our dreams.
So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal.
colliding with our Creator. What a powerful idea.
Yes. Are you prepared?
I think so. I've let go of my doubt and my skepticism, and I'm open to the possibility that God is personally reaching out to me. I mean, how can I deny it when I think about how John's life was dramatically changed by a conversation with his Creator, and the unforgettable gifts of healing and peace that Guy and I received on the beach? And I vividly remember how my meeting with Jesus restored my hope. I believe that there is an immense source of healing available to each of us in this unseen place, the place where heaven and earth intersect. Call me a starry-eyed romantic, but I believe that this is why human beings have had this unquenchable yearning to connect with someone or something outside of our own reality. I think, maybe, all along we have been hearing a love call from one who was also yearning for us.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is my truest love of all?
Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is my truest love of all?
Look, I am creating new heavens and a new earth, and no one will even think about the old ones anymore. Be glad, rejoice forever in my creation.
Oh, Margaret, I just want to embrace all of this, take it all inside of me so I have it with me forever.
Heavens, yes. Embrace it.
The third element of our journey. We must embrace our divine encounters as validation of our true identities. True identities. Spiritual beings having a human experience, right?
Yes, and much more than that.
More. You want me to have the mind and heart and faith of a child? And now you tell me I need to understand something more?
Read me some more of the story.
This? But I thought I finished it.
No.
Once upon a time, there was a glorious kingdom. Oh no, it's different. Once upon a time, there was a glorious kingdom. It was called the Kingdom of Light, because there was no darkness, no night. Papa was the ruler of this magnificent kingdom. He was a good and kind ruler, and was adored by all. Papa had a son, one son, whom he loved with all his heart. As the kingdom's heir, the son was kept very busy commanding great armies and attending to the needs of his citizens. Papa's kingdom was as vast as the stars in the sky, and one of his favorite places was a beautiful little territory that he called Earth. But Earth was a lonely place. It had no children. Papa's visits there were frequent, and he missed his companionship of all his loved ones in the kingdom. And so, he created a boy and a girl to be with him in Earth, and he placed them safely in an enchanted garden where he could visit whenever he wanted. This is a lovely story, Margaret, but I wish Papa could find his children again.
The story isn't over yet. See those two worlds there?
It looks like they're crashing into each other.
It's a wondrous collision, the merging of the realms of heaven and earth. Watch, child. Watch and learn.
The time is fulfilled, and the kingdom of God is at hand.
Margaret explained that this is the place where heaven and earth intersect. It is the continuation of Papa's story, the greatest love story ever told. And I was watching it unfold before my very eyes. I watched as Papa's heart directed the light from heaven into the earth. And each shimmer I saw twinkling on the earth represented a child who had found its way home. I thought about that moment in my dream when Jesus held his light for me in the window, helping me to find my way out of the darkness. He came from his heavenly realm into my world to bring me home. What a wondrous truth! The kingdom of heaven, Papa's kingdom of light, is here on earth, right now, unseen, brushing up against us, dancing with us, revealing itself through our divine encounters. Friends, when we believe that our connection to this kingdom is real, we can finally embrace our true identities. We are the children of God, royal heirs to his kingdom. Heirs.
Welcome to your happily ever after, Jennifer.
Royalty, like princes and princesses, in the greatest love story ever told. Now I know what their mirror would have answered me all those years ago. My truest loves of all are my Papa and his son, my beautiful shimmering lights.
The Spirit himself bears witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs of God and fellow heirs with Christ.
There will come a day when this merging of the heavenly and earthly realms will be complete, and we who have chosen to follow the light, that glorious shimmering light of Jesus, we will all dwell together with our angels in one magnificent kingdom. Heaven truly is closer than we think. And knowing my true identity makes my heart leap with joy. But being a kingdom heir seems like a really big responsibility. What do heirs do?
You are to join with us as light bearers to the kingdom.
Light bearers? This light, it's Papa's heart.
Yes, and Papa and I are always with you.
So, as we discover our true identities as heirs, Papa places a piece of his heart, his light inside each of us. Thus, we become part of him, a part of the divine. And it is Papa's design that what we receive must also flow out of us. Just as we receive his light, we must share it. This is the secret behind growing the kingdom.
Yes, sweetheart, yes.
What you receive must flow out of you. What you receive must flow out of you. This is the biggest challenge of being a light bearer, because we live in the stranger's world, a world that prefers to keep us in darkness and fear. Fear. Fear is the most effective weapon that the stranger uses to keep us from being light bearers. I sure can relate to that. I know we're supposed to share our stories about how we have experienced God with others so that they too can understand that we are not alone. And it's easy to share among friends. I think that's what we call our comfort zones. But it's an entirely different matter to step outside of our comfort zone. That is when that pesky fear pops up. But the psalmist assures us when he tells us, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them. so true. Something changed in me after hearing John tell me his story in the hospital. I was deeply convicted. There he was, bravely sharing with me his intimate, life-changing encounter, while I had been keeping my own encounters with God locked away inside of me, telling no one. I had been afraid of being labeled as one of those, someone foolish enough to believe in an unseen place beyond ourselves. But my experience in that hospital room wasn't at all foolish. John wept healing tears of gratitude as he shared his story with me, reliving every moment. And I received a breathtaking insight into a truth that lies beyond life as we know it. I have realized that it is not for us to explain these encounters because we can't. But what we can do is we can claim them and say, yes, I am one of those. I am one who believes that hope and healing comes to us from a place, an eternal place, a kingdom as close to us as our next heartbeat. And by claiming this, we also claim our identities as royal light bearers. This is an identity to be worn with grace. We are to embrace who we are and whose we are and not be ashamed. God's authority goes with us wherever we go, opening doors, giving us confidence, credibility, and his permission to be bold. As I think about being bold, I'm reminded of the boldest light bearer I have ever heard of. His name was Paul. Talk about one who has encountered the light, right? Oh, he didn't worry about fear or ridicule. Even though he was stoned and shipwrecked and jailed, he kept sharing his miraculous story with all who would listen. Why? Because he knew all about the powerful healing and transformation that awaited those willing to listen and believe. By sharing his story, Paul began a great movement, one that has lasted for more than 2,000 years. So, what if? What if today we boldly step up to fulfill our roles in God's plan, just as Paul did, to share what we have received from God? Each of our stories is uniquely personal. Each of us has received something from heaven that has healed us, given us comfort, purpose, or hope. Friends, hear this. Someone out there needs to hear your story, to receive what you have received.
Oh, yes, ditto that. When you share your story, it becomes God's story, and He uses it to bring hope and healing to others.
So, in order to share what we have received, we have to identify our divine encounters and unlock them to release them from inside ourselves.
Exactly.
I have heard many people say that they're not sure they've ever had an encounter with God. How would we know? They ask. Well, here's what I do. The first thing to do is to be still. Put down the phone, turn off the TV, find your personal sacred space, and be quiet. We cannot encounter God if we are surrounded by noise, especially our own voices. And then listen. Listen to the quiet voice inside yourself, God's still, small voice. Listen to each other and listen to your dreams. And feel. When does something unbidden stir your heart? When does your skin tingle with goosebumps not caused by natural forces? Consider that as spiritual beings, Your spiritual senses are trying to tell you something. And finally, write it down. Keep a journal of mysterious experiences and moments when you are inspired by something. You will be amazed to discover what has been happening to you all along. In one way or another, every single one of us encounters God because He is ever faithful. He never, ever stops speaking to us. So, once we can identify how we experience God in our lives, it's time to tell others. Just as my friend John told me in the hospital, there is something more out there, something wonderful. We need to talk about it. We need to share it. Remember, what we have received must flow out of us. It is what we were designed to do. For as the earth brings forth its sprouts, and as a garden causes what is sown in it to sprout up, so the Lord God will cause righteousness and praise to sprout up before all the nations. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And I'd like to leave you with this. Know that until I step fully into sharing eternity in God's beautiful, loving, forgiving, and healing light, I will be forever grateful that I encountered Him in my garden. And whether your garden is one like this, or whether it's a prayer room in your home, or whether it's a journal and a latte in your favorite coffee shop, my hope and my prayer today is that you'll come to your garden and that you'll meet your Savior there.
Tonight's presentation is based on the new book that's changing lives across America.
A little angel told me that you've written a new book.
Yes, I have. It's called Come to the Garden.
And who am I going to meet in that garden, Jennifer?
You're going to meet a mysterious, wise, funny angel named Margaret.
And what is she going to tell me?
She's going to tell you to discover that heaven is closer than you think.
Download your free Come to the Garden app after the show. The book that's loved by critics and readers alike is also available through the app, and audiobook narrated by Kathie Lee Gifford at Audible. Continue your journey with Jennifer and Margaret at cometothegardenbook.com and by downloading the free Come to the Garden app.
What a special evening we've shared together. I'm so glad I've come, aren't you? And what a powerful reminder of God's presence in our daily lives. I'm determined to leave here more attuned to those coincidences which happen in my life, and to listen more attentively to God's whispering voice. Will you join me in welcoming back Jennifer Wilder Morgan and her special guest, Paul Young.
Thank you, Dr. Ron. Thank you so much. And welcome, Paul Young.
I'm thrilled to be here. How fun was this, right? Come on.
Oh, goodness. Well, two storytellers on the same stage.
You know, I think everybody's a story. So that's why we have such an affinity with it. Every human being is a story. They just don't have one. They are one.
That's right.
And I think that's why eternity takes so long, because we're going to unravel all of them and figure out how they all got connected, you know?
Yeah.
I'm serious. I think that's true. I think we're going to see the tapestry, and some little blue-haired lady was praying in some closet over here, and it changed something that was going on in Australia that changed the whole family system. I mean, serious. We're going to find out.
That's right.
So, you know, I write a book that does this massive thing accidentally on my part. Obviously, God has a sense of humor, right?
That's right.
And but it's just one of those things that ripples out. But inside the kingdom of God, those rippling out things are happening all the time, and they're inside these little quiet prayer rooms and little interactions and conversations. You know, I'm thrilled to be part of whatever this thing is that I'm a part of, but I don't understand it at all. And I'm like, I'm grateful to be inside story, because that's where holy ground is.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And like you said, you know, sharing our stories is so important.
Yeah.
And you never know who needs to hear yours. Like you said, that tapestry, I love that.
Yeah.
And
thanks.
well, your books have inspired me, your Shack and Crossroads, and I'm still reading Eve. I'm loving that book.
Oh, you wait till you get to the end.
I know, I can't wait.
The end is like,
Well, it's so
cool.
exciting, too, because The Shack is going to be released as a feature-length movie in November.
It is, yeah.
I mean, wow!
You know, I never even intended to be an author.
Neither did I.
Yeah, right. I wrote The Shack on the train to one of my 3 jobs to trying to get it done for Christmas as a gift for our kids. And so I ended up making 15 copies at Office Depot. and I got to tell you, those 15 copies did everything I ever wanted that book to do.
That's
I'm
amazing.
absolutely serious about that.
Yeah.
And all of this other, nobody saw it coming, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. Lionsgate's doing the movie. It's not a little thing. You'll hear it coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
And but it releases November 18th nationwide, and it should be great fun.
Awesome, wonderful. Do we have a question?
Well, this evening we have some people that have wanted to ask it a little bit more, and we're so happy. The first question, come up here. What is the question?
Hi, Jennifer. My name is Dana.
Hi, Dana.
And my question is, have you spoken to Margaret lately? And if so, what new word has she given you?
You know, Margaret, I spent all summer with Margaret, actually, during the editing process for this story. Once I got a contract with Simon Schuster with Howard Books,
Yeah.
I needed to go back into the editing process, and I spent 2 months looking out into the garden and thinking about the challenges of keeping the story the same, but constructing it in a little bit different way. And when I'd get kind of stuck, I would just talk to Margaret. And literally every single time I got stuck or I had a challenge, the answer came. So she helped me edit this book. And I truly believe that she and I will work together again. I would love to. I would love to.
I've had editors, they haven't been angels, though.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, a good editor is worth their weight in gold. It's amazing.
Well, we have a question here for you, Paul. Are you ready?
Absolutely.
All right.
The Shack absolutely changed my life, and I was wondering what led you spiritually or emotionally to write this wonderful book?
Good question. Thank you.
I was trying to do like the Bible says and submit to my wife. And it does. It says that. It says submit one to another, and she's one of the others. Right? So I've always been a writer, and but like anybody is, you write stuff and you give it to your friends and your family, and they think you're awesome because they're your friends and your family. But you know, so I'd written poetry and songs and short stories and things like that. And Kim, the woman to whom I've been married now almost 37 years, she had been sort of after me for about 4 years, saying, you know, someday, as a gift for our children, would you put in one place how you think, because you think outside the box. And I didn't feel healthy enough as a human being to do it until I was turning 50. And that's also the year we had nothing. You go through some of these times in your life where economics just disappears, you know, and you find out that one of your major fears has been fear of financial insecurity, and so one of the best ways to heal it is to lose everything. And so I went through this period of time where we learned that the opposite of more was enough. And we always had enough. And it just ripped that fear out of my world. So I was working 3 jobs. Kim was working at the high school bakery. It was 2 blocks away from the little 900 square foot rental house that we were in. And but I had 40 minutes each way to one of my jobs where I was doing web conferencing for companies. And it gave me this little time, and I'm thinking, like, I have nothing to get. We have 6 children. Our youngest now is 22. And so, but I said, I have nothing to give them for Christmas. And Kim, you know what? And I feel like I'm healthy enough to actually try to do this. So I wrote the story mostly on the train to back and forth to that job. And I made the 15 copies at Office Depot that did everything. And I went back to work. And my desire was to find a way to talk to I grew up missionary kid, preacher's kid, evangelical, fundamental, you know, so I had further to go than most people. And so I'm trying to say inside story, because image and story and those kinds of things, it affects us deeply, and we can engage with it. It opens up space so we can hear for ourselves. That's one of the beautiful things about fiction. And I was able to wrap my own history inside this kind of loss in a way that communicated to my children, I want to tell you about the God who actually showed up in my life and healed my heart, not the God I grew up with. Because there's a real divergence between the two. And when I was growing up, through great sadness as a child, and some real difficult things, the nature and character of God was very suspect. God the Father was the darkness behind Jesus, right? He was the person who needed to be appeased, and Jesus came to save me, yes, but save me from God the Father. And if this makes sense to you, it took me all of 50 years to wipe the face of my own father off the face of God. And so Mackenzie's weekend in the shack represents 11 years for me. Wow. And I'm trying to say, these are the things that matter to me. This is how I want to ask real human questions about pain and suffering and loss and those kinds of things. And it just turned out to be a very human book that resonated all over the planet.
We've got another question, and I'm glad the last one was asked because that was very revealing.
That was.
And gave me some insight there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question.
Yeah. Hi, Jennifer. First of all, thank you for sharing your beautiful story.
You're welcome.
You started off talking about your childhood, your childhood dreams. And I was curious, did you share your story as a child with your mom and dad or your brothers and sisters at all?
Not very often. Not very often. I kept a lot of that to myself. My sister and I shared a wall between our bedrooms. And when we were supposed to be sleeping, we had a secret knock. And so if one of us couldn't sleep, and the other would. And that meant get down on the floor, on your tummy, and find the outlet and whisper through the outlet, the electric outlet.
Sounds like prison.
And so we would tell our story, and we would tell things, and I did tell my sister some of my dreams, and we would sit there, and I'd tell my dream through the outlet, and she'd be, wow, that's fantastic. So, but I did tell some stories, but a lot of them I just sort of kept private, very private.
Well, thank you. We've got another question. Hello.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi.
I'm Patricia. And my question is about divine encounters. For those of us that feel that we have had them, how do you find the courage to finally share that? You talked about John and his story and how that gave you insight into opening up. But is there anything else that you can give to people that are looking for that answer, for that courage?
One of the ways to find courage to share yourself is to let others tell you their stories. And when you do that, you create an atmosphere of sharing. And I found this when I've done book discussions here with women's groups, and we start sharing, and as women would listen to each other's stories, they got the courage to share theirs. And many of them would say, I've never told anyone this, but, and there's such a release from sharing with someone who is accepting and who listens without judgment. And so that's what I think is one way to just get people opened up, is to listen to them.
And this was not previewed. I saw it at the same time that everybody else saw this tonight. And it struck me that people would intersect with your story at different points, but I believe that the majority of us intersected at the tombstone scene. Because this planet is divided by every kind of ideology you can imagine. We're divided by politics, we're divided by religion, we're divided by economics, we're divided by, I mean, we're good at division. I mean, even the Christians have 44,000 denominations. I mean, we're experts at it. If somebody wants to know how to divide people over color of carpet and stuff, we can do it. And so, you know, in a world where all of these divisions exist, one of the things that we have in common, and we have a few things in common, but one of them is loss. And the tone of loss that enters in at that point just moves everybody into a certain spot together. Because together we know loss. And if you don't know loss yet, you will.
Yes.
I mean, it's like built into this, the way that this broken place is. And so that piece really resonated. And because loss is something that I'm very familiar with, and it's right at the centerpiece of everything that I write. So I wanted to, in fact, I'd mentioned that backstage to someone about that bit and how powerful it was, because at that point, authenticity then also invites authenticity.
Yes.
Because we're dealing with something that is a deep part of our story. And so many of the stories I hear are around loss. And you know, the loss between a parent and a child, even though, and you're not to the place in Eve where that particular loss is addressed, yours. Right? And it's inside the storyline.
Right.
So the loss between a parent and a child is the greatest loss a human being can experience, bar none.
Exactly.
And so that's where the biggest and best questions are asked.
And what I love about both of our stories too is that God finds us wherever we are.
Yes.
And knows how to touch our hearts. That's unique to each of us. So, well, listen, thank you so much. I'm so honored that you came to Houston.
I'm thrilled to be a part of this. You came?
Yes.
So thank you.
And we thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Paul, and thank all of you for being here.